Annika is a president, Picard is a conqueror, Rios is a colonel, Rafi is a head of security, Elnor is a rebel, and Dr. Girardi is mind-bendingly lonely basically anywhere. Oh, and Sisko is a general. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with maybe General Sisko. We don't know which Sisko they're talking about. Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 2, Penance. And this season of our Picard reviews, by the way, is brought to you by Grandpa One. We love Grandpa One. How you doing, Sarek?
Wow. Good. Doing great.
Yeah. You got
Salute
it, Baum.
to Tim. And his Liverpool mafia.
His mafia.
Yeah, man. I thought this was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, and did you catch that when they said, tell General Sisko or something like that?
I had to rewind that a few times, yes. I didn't have the caption on, but I did rewind it about 4 times just to clarify.
Yeah.
And so, I had that written in my notes. General Sisko, Interesting.
Yeah, because, they kind of it was kind of like a throwaway line real quick, but we knew what we heard as soon as we heard it, but we still wanted to go back, right? For me, I knew it right away. I'm like, I heard General Sisko, but let me go back and listen to it a couple times anyway, just to see if there was anything else he added or did he say general? What exactly did he say? Now, maybe that's Benjamin Sisko, but you never know. It could be Jake Sisko.
I thought that. Because I was thinking that, would you go from captain to general?
Sure.
Because I believe that the next step up is from captain to admiral in that ranking system.
Yeah, but remember, this is now like some new universe where everything's different, and that's why, some people might be like, "Oh no, it's probably not Jake Sisko. He's a writer." But this is a totally different timeline. Everybody's different. Picard's a conqueror. So, I mean, technically, I guess it could be Joseph Sisko, or it could be Jennifer Sisko.
Yeah, they weren't clear about it, but I'm confident that it was Captain Benjamin Sisko,
probably, yeah.
If it's anybody. Because the other references kind of made sense to fit along with that, because Dukat was in this one. You know what I mean? There were other references.
Yeah, can we talk about Dukat's skull and General Martok's skull? Those were big references to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, and I think the first time we've gotten those kinds of major references in the new incarnations of things, to that degree. They did bring up O'Brien, but O'Brien could be a reference to Next Generation as well. So I think this is the biggest reference episode as far as Deep Space Nine is concerned. We had Martok, we had Dukat.
Sisko, yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, it's now Skull Dukat.
Whoa, this is very good. This is very good.
Thank you very much.
Tip your waitress. Wow.
I thought it was a lot of good references there. And this episode actually had me for a while asking what the hell is going on, And the thing that was difficult for me to kind of comprehend early on was that nobody knew what was going on, right? Usually it's one person, one character that's like, why am I in this Nazi uniform or something? But everybody else is in the know on the thing, whatever the thing is. So everybody else is normal and just going along as if this is, what they do every day. And it's usually just one character that's looking around lost, trying to gauge and find perspective on what's happening. But in this instance, it was all the characters right? All of them kind of feeling lost and like, what the hell's going on? Why am I here? Who am I? And so that confused me a little bit because I'm thinking, if it's Picard's mind, if this is going on in his mind, or if this is a dream of his, then how's everybody else also dreaming that same dream? So that was one thing that they explained in the episode. So it kept me kind of guessing, but I'm glad that they did because it was a little confusing in the beginning for me. I don't know how you felt.
Welcome to a Q episode. This is what he did in Next Generation so many times, where he would do something like in one episode, Cupid, I think it was called Cupid, which was a fun little play on words there. He snaps his fingers and they're all in the world of Robin Hood, and Picard is Robin Hood, and this lady Vosh is Maid Marian, and all this stuff. And he's like, Q, what are you doing? I'm not, and the Worf says his famous line of, I am not a merry man, I must protest, whatever it is. So he always does these weird things where you're like, what is it this time? Now, this one was a little bit more confusing and a little bit darker too. And Picard does say, Q is unwell. So what does that mean? Does he sense that he's ill physically, or does he sense that there's something he's going through mentally or emotionally? Is probably more the case. But yeah, so basically they said that the timeline has been altered. It's the same world, it's the same everything. But then they said, well, what did he change? And they said just one moment, one incident that Q changed, and that changed the trajectory that hard. Now that's going to have to be a pretty huge thing, that one little thing changes the entire trajectory of a planet and then a galaxy. And it happens in Los Angeles in 2024. What do you predict? Is it going to be maybe like the LA Kings winning the Stanley Cup, or what do you think?
I think it's going to be them bringing back Deep Space Nine. That was important to alter the trajectory.
Season 8. Yeah. Deep Space Nine, Season 8. You're right.
An all new, reinvented Deep Space Nine, and we can do like our farewell tour. I don't know what it's going to be, but I thought it was interesting that it was Los Angeles. I also thought it was interesting that it was 2024. It obviously made me think, oh, they're going to save some money on building sets for the next episode and be like in LA.
Yeah.
In basically current times.
Yeah.
So
they're just going to be walking down Melrose, or,
exactly.
They're like, where will we find the budget to shoot something that looks like LA? Let's just go to LA.
Let's just go to LA.
But 2024, how are we going to make 2022 look like 2024?
Yeah, exactly. How can we make it look 2 years in the future? So yes, no, that was one thought that crossed my mind. Was what is it that happens in LA in 2024? And obviously they didn't reveal that to us, but they left that kind of embedded that in our psyche. So it was a good plant. Mm-hmm. And the other plants that were good is, I felt like Picard likes a little bit to play the villain, because when he had to switch into to his villainous mode, right?
He nailed it.
Yes, I like the scene when they brought Elnor to be interrogated. Rafi bringing Elnor up, and some of the other Federation or Confederation people say, who authorizes this? And then, of course, Patrick Stewart walks up, really like a real militant dictator type of leader.
Yeah,
lays down the law and says, I did, in the way that he did, and it was so forceful and kind of menacing that I'm like, wow, he must have been having this itch to play this villainous character for a while, because he's so good at it.
He was really good, because when he first does that, transfers over, I'm like, is he going to be able to play a convincing, because like he can act tougher, he can act meaner, but will it work for us Star Trek fans that are used to watching him as Picard for 3 or 4 decades or whatever, 3 decades? Like, it's going to be hard for us to swallow it, So what's he going to do? And he did have, he was able to conjure up, kind of this inner strength and this strong, like, vitriol or hatred, like just like an angry, powerful person. And it reminded me a little bit of Christopher Lee playing Saruman in Lord of the Rings, in that, how does an 80-year-old play a convincing, powerful, intimidating thing? I mean, playing a creepy guy or playing an evil guy, sure, but playing somebody that commands attention and has this commanding presence is a lot harder to do. But obviously Picard did it, and I was like, wow, he actually did it. Our little scrapper, our little 80-year-old Captain Picard played a tough, menacing dictator, right? Authoritarian.
Yeah. And I thought he was able to switch it on really quickly because, he was going in between from, having discussions with his people from, 7 of 9 and these other characters, going in from having an intimate discussion with them about what the plan is, what the game plan is, and also being able to switch back into this authoritarian figure that was just really relentless and didn't have any mercy. And obviously had me sold on how vicious he could be, right? Even though there were really no moments where he was challenged, and that was because he projected this strength that was almost unchallengeable, right?
Yeah, and I did also notice there was something that was one of those TV tropes, is like, okay, 4 main characters or 5 main characters or 7 main characters get transferred over into this other thing, but they all happen to be the top person in their field, right? Picard is the top dictator, general. Rafi is the head of security. Annika, aka Seven, is the president.
The president. Mm-hmm.
And Agnes is like the top doctor or whatever. It's like, it would be obviously, what are the chances of that? It's 1 out of 7 billion that somebody's going to be the president. It'd be more likely that it's like, okay, Picard is a retired tennis player. Annika is a engineer. Rafi is a grandma that smokes.
She's a farmer.
It's more likely that maybe one of them would be kind of high up, like a 17th Lord of, Scotland or something like that. or this is the director of education in the Alabama governor's office or something, where they'd be like, I have some pull, but not that much. But nope, they just all happen to be at the top of their game. But of course, it makes for a way better story that way.
Well, it does, and it also in line with what you were just trying to explain to me earlier, which is how Q functions, right? He likes to have, he brings them all together. He all has them aware of the circumstances. And I believe Picard alluded to some degree that there was something that Q wants you to figure out, right? There's some kind of, it's not just a haphazard kind of gathering of things and collection of events. It's more like an escape room, like these are, you're stuck with these circumstances and you have to figure out how to get out of this room or out of this scenario. And I think that's what we saw, kind of well played out, because it was almost like Quantum Leap, right? Like 7 of 9, boom, into her body, right? It's like almost we were watching an episode of Quantum Leap. Everybody just jumping into their body at the exact same time, trying to figure out who the hell am I? And
yeah, you're so right.
Yeah, so this was a kind of a Quantum Leap episode for me. And actually, speaking of Dr. Agnes, I thought she also delivered a fantastic performance in this. She is so natural. She's so good at the awkward, nervous,
Yeah.
Banter. She's just amazing.
I
So
put that in my notes too. I was like A plus to her. She's killing it. It was a little reminiscent of Tilly, first season Tilly, but obviously they're two very different type of characters, or they're two very different characters, even if they're similar character types. But man, can she act, right?
Oh God. I mean, I was just writing down. So for example, 7 of 9 comes walking into the place and she says, "Oh, hi, 7," right?
Yeah.
And 7 says, "I know you haven't met my husband," right?
Mm-hmm. And
so she's cluing her in, like, you realize this isn't the same thing that you normally would think. So, obviously Dr. Agnes, she starts picking up on it really quickly. Like, okay, I can't speak freely and openly. I have to watch my words. And
then later on, she says, Annika 7 shots, Hansen, or something like that. Yes. Brilliant. Beautifully written, yes. Beautifully delivered.
Beautiful. So she masks the 7 nickname that she gives her, but she also says, 7 to 9 says to her, "It's been a long time." Mm-hmm. And Dr. Agnes says, "It has. Has it?"
Yeah, it has. ... Has it? I was like, that's funny on the page and it's funny on the stage right there. That's a good, solid word.
Yes. And then she also had other scenes where she goes on and starts doing the thing. And I just love her performance. I think she's so natural. She gives you so much subtlety in her facial expressions, her pauses, her delivery. I just think it's really special, and she maxes out her screen time. So big shout out to Dr. Agnes.
I totally agree. I think that's one of those cases of synergy between writer and actor, to where the writers know how to write for her. They know what fits her and what she can do. And like, as they're writing, they're like, how would Agnes Girardi say this? How would, they've captured her voice. They know her voice. And conversely, on the other side of that, when she receives these sides, her lines, she eats them up. She eats them for lunch. You know what I mean? And it's just a really great thing to see. We see this a lot of times in Star Trek, the synergy between the writer and the actor, similar to, my God, Wei-Yun and the writer. The writers write perfectly
Dukat.
For Wei-Yun. Dukat was the other one, right? And also, like, say, a Quark. They do that with Quark beautifully. But anyway, certain people, it's just this perfect synergy. So I'm glad we both agree on that.
And other moments too, like when they said to her, "Okay, we'll get the prisoner from section 10-5 or whatever it was." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Oh, I supposed to know how to do this." like I guess I'm the person who's doing this, right? Mm-hmm. And so just that natural thing. They all had moments like that in which they were kind of like dropped into this thing, except for Rafi. I believe Rafi she just comes out with the hood on and,
right. At this point, it's implied that she also went through that realization at some point. We don't need to see every single one of them. That was a much better way to show it, is for Elnor to be like, "Uh-oh," and then Rafi to show up and be like, "Here I am."
Right.
And they're not writing all this comedic gold for people like Rafi or 7, but they are nailing it in other ways. They have completely different roles. The other one, though, Elnor gets a little bit of comedy in there. He's more of the guy of like, "Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't be butting in here, but there's this." And so he's got his own comedic things to throw in there as well.
Right. No, that's not a good situation.
Yeah, he's super literal. Right. That's his thing. Yeah.
That's his thing. Also him, with the whole kicking ass at some point, I thought that was cool. Him just, letting them beat him up while she, to buy time for Rafi. But, Yeah, I think each one of them had. Rios also had that moment too, as well, of just like realization that okay, who's firing at me?
Yeah.
What's going on? So it actually, not the more I think about it, the more I think of quantum leap, jumping into the body, and having to figure out on the fly who you are, what you're doing. Even though you're the same person as far as biologically looking the same, you still have to figure out what your role in the world is.
Yeah, quantum leaps right there is what we're talking about.
Yes.
But yeah, I wanted just to finish up on Elrond. He's got that cool delivery. I mean, basically he's that comedic element of the guy that, takes everything literally, whether it's Woody on Cheers, whether it's Data on The Next Generation. There's almost always a character that takes things super literally, like Data in Star Trek Insurrection, I believe it was. Riker shaves his beard, and I think Data inquires about it, and Riker says, smoother than an android's bottom, right?
Yeah.
Instead of smoother than a baby's bottom. And the funniest line, and Star Trek fans know where I'm going with this. So Data goes, "May I, sir?" He goes, "Sure." And he goes, and Data feels his cheek, and Data goes, "No." It's so funny. So he cracked. So we're gonna get gems like that, obviously, going forward from Elrond, of a guy that's just taking things way too seriously or way too literally. But he's like, "No, man, that's not smoother than my ass. You're tripping, dude."
That's funny. I definitely like that. But yeah, I thought the skulls in that skull room were like kind of a memory that was burned into my head when I first saw it.
Mm-hmm.
This collection of skulls, and
loved it.
It almost, I thought this was a great moment, and it made me want to collect one of those. Like, how much you want?
Don't
for
look
that,
at me. I'm keeping my skull. Okay,
that's yours.
Okay.
But and you know what? They had a Ferengi skull too, which was another thing. It was like, whoa, where did they?
They also mentioned Sarek. I forgot to say that Sarek, right?
Yes.
Who was Spock's dad. So he's not only is he conquering, and that's another thing that happens in TV shows, is they just happen to conquer all the names that we already know. Like they didn't go like the great Vulcan Nikwak, and the great Cardassian Garabog, or they're like the same people we know. But that's way better that way. Obviously, we love that stuff. Sarek, Martok, and Dukat. I mean,
and Dukat, and also a Ferengi skull and a Borg skull, which was also featured in that moment. So, just a collection of skulls makes you think of people who keep animal heads as trophies and things of that nature, and you think about kind of the barbarianism in it, and in some degree, just collecting heads.
Yeah, it's great, and it shows that he's a completely different type of character. He's a conqueror,
Right.
He is not just a war general, but he enjoys what he does very much, and he cuts off their heads and displays them proudly. And speaking of which, this is not the best segue, but there was another little Easter egg. I believe Agnes Girardi, our girl, Dr. Agnes, says her cat's name is Spot 73. And I rewound that. Like, did I hear Spot or Spock? But it was Spot 73, which was a reference to Data, because Data's cat's name was Spot. And that's got some of the best lines and best things ever in Star Trek as well. But so that was very nice. Spot 73 sounds like a punk band. But who I thought
stood out a little bit was this Borg Queen.
Yes.
No, that's not the same actress who played the Borg Queen in the films, right? Okay, but I thought she was excellent as well.
So creepy. It's hard to follow in the footsteps of the past board queens we've had, because they have just been incredible. And this one, no problem. She does it. She nails it. She was like super like creepy, and those black eyes that are just like, I'm like looking, I'm like, is that how they get giant contacts in there? Or is that visual effects where they just darkened out her eyeballs? Because that is creepy and weird and disconcerting all in one. But she's acting, and I believe that was the same actress that they saw in the first episode where she was like beating people up and doing all this and that, so obviously she's got range, so that's definitely looking forward to more from her.
Me too. The moment that she gave where they looked her in the eye and they were basically explaining that, if they don't time travel, that it was the end of the Borg and that she needed to help. They said, "Will you help us?" And the moment she gave this creepy, like Hannibal Lecter kind of like, "Yes, I will." Like it was so, it was so layered with this context of just, I'm waiting to betray you. Your mercy's in my hand. You need me. It was just layered with all of that, and I thought she was fantastic as her performance.
Her name is Anna Wershing, and she doesn't look very Borgy in real life.
Okay.
Yeah. She, check it out.
She invented the washing machine.
There we go. Yeah. So that's
her.
Wow.
She's wow. She's actually younger than I thought she would be.
Agreed.
She looked older in the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very pretty.
Yeah.
But she gave a fantastic performance, so definitely deserves kudos for.
I agree
for that, because she sold me as that really demonic yet kind of all-knowing type of character.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of things going on. The other, when Picard says to the android that's helping him in his house, the bald guy, and he says, what does he say? "Forgive me, I can't remember your name."
Yeah. Harvey. It's Harvey, sir. I'm Harvey.
I'm like, you don't remember the guy's name?
But that's because he doesn't know him, so he's just pretending.
Yeah.
I thought the best line was when 7 of 9, Annika Hansen, was trying to figure out was it Rios? I think it was Rios. He's trying to figure out if Rios also knew, or if she was just in this on her own. And she was very subtle about it. She calls him, "Hello, Rios," and he's like, "Oh, hey," and they're both kind of like, "Can I talk to this person or not?" And she said, "If you encountered anything out of the ordinary, I encourage you to speak freely." And then he goes, 7? And she's like, "Oh, Chris," and that was that was A+ writing to me, because we know what she's thinking, we know what he's thinking, and we're thinking like, how is she going to word this to kind of, finesse it in? And it was a perfect interaction. I thought that was really well written.
I did too. Another thing that I really loved was this piece of art that was on the wall inside of Picard's domicile. That the ship that was taking fire and firing.
Domicile. Well, that's $100 word right there. What's going on? Wow.
Yeah. Well, inside, I don't know. It looked like, I guess it's his chateau, but it still, it was this beautiful oil painting.
I missed that painting.
Yeah, it had the ship kind of look like this.
Nice. Hang on. Let me
coming out of it.
Pull that up. Really, it did, huh?
Yeah. It was on the wall. It was an oil painting, very nice, and it was something that, once again, going back in time, or actually, this is currently. So, that would be something that you would want to take if you were on the show. I want that.
You are always convincing people to take home parting gifts when they act in Star Trek.
I mean, stuff like that is just like, it's just beautiful. It's like, you know, you put that up in your house and it's priceless, really. And shout out to the art department for coming up with it. This beautiful oil painting of this battle of the Enterprise going through this, you know, attacking these ships or under fire. There was also things that were kind of eerie, you know, just to see this time period or whatever they were in, this timeline that they were in, when you saw some of the authoritarianism and you saw some of the propaganda that was being used, right? I think it was like, you know, Eradication Day, you know, just these key words. I think one of them was Picard saying how they sought out and conquered primitive civilizations. You know, a safe galaxy is a human galaxy, they say. You know, so it's like these kind of iterations of indoctrination of this kind of oppressive society. And those are the kind of signs that you look for when you see these kinds of things that are supposed to define who you are, right? Seeking out and conquering primitives, you know, like, let's conquer these primitive people. Because that logic has been used throughout time for to validate the extermination of people or the subjugation of people. You know, they're just not smart and advanced like us. They're primitive. They're backwards. They're not civilized. And so those are the reasons to justify really abhorrent actions by people. And I think they really emphasized that in this episode as well by using that kind of language.
Exactly. Yeah. They, the way you can convince your people to do atrocities is by first dehumanizing the people to whom they are doing the atrocities. Once you dehumanize them, or quite literally dehumanize them when it's alien races, then you can convince the people to be like, oh, it's okay, they're just Ferengi, or it's okay, they're just, you know, fill in the blank. Yeah, good point there. Yeah.
And Q actually in the opening made a reference to that. He says, why pay for help when you could have alien slaves?
Yeah.
And that was, you know, essentially a callback to slavery and the justification for that as well.
Yeah, he said, paradise has to have staff. That was the line. I was like, ooh, that is a good line. He's like, even paradise has to have staff.
Yes. And really good writing, good episode. I knew that it was going to be good when we saw Q at the end of the last episode. I was already saying, okay, this is going to be better than usual. They're always going to take us for a ride, and they did take us for a ride in this one. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. The animated cat, which you talked about a little bit, I thought that was like, I was like, where did this come from?
I thought the same. I was like, this is weird.
This is weird. Not even a hologram or, you know, something different. It was like an animated cat. It was like a, you know, Dora the Explorer, you know, swipey, no swiping. So it was kind of weird.
You know, and I want to say again for the second week in a row, just how impressed I am with the opening title sequence. They really revamped the Picard song, which was already a gorgeous, beautiful song. But in the first season, it was more sweet. It was more reminiscent. It was more, you know, like basically nostalgic, an old man dying and looking back on his life. And this one is more, is darker, is more powerful, is more like the stakes have been raised. And the visuals during the main title are so freaking good.
Yeah.
Not just the music, but I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, that is an unbelievable opening title sequence. Just can't get over how great that is.
Yeah, I found myself watching that too, saying to myself, "Wow, this like the Borg ship and just the whole thing is just interesting to watch. It almost sets the tone for the season, and usually we don't get that kind of variation. You know, Star Trek has traditionally kept the title scenes, you know, pretty much unmodified on the different shows throughout the past. Is that correct? Like, I mean, Next Generation was consistent. I know Deep Space Nine was pretty much consistent.
Yeah, they
maybe
changed
they
up the
add
music a little bit.
drums.
Yeah,
you know, they might put stuff in HD. They might add a few little, you know, segue camera shots or runabout flying around.
The only one that really did something impressive with that was Enterprise. When they did a Mirror Universe episode, they opened it with a completely different song and a completely different, you know, visual opening title sequence because it was the Mirror Universe. So that was really cool. But other than that, yeah, it's shows, you know, stay consistent. There was also Enterprise also changed up how, you know, the upbeatness. They made their song more upbeat for the third and fourth season, and Deep Space Nine, we know, filled it out after season 3 a little bit. But basically, the visuals remain the same always. Yeah,
right. With the addition of maybe a Defiant or or a Runabout or some kind of small addition, but usually keeping the structure intact and just adding on to it. But this is like complete revamped stuff. Is like all new stuff, and it's great to watch.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But yeah, the other thing I thought you were going to say was the Colombian roast black coffee that seems to really irritate.
That was one of the trivioids I put. Picard hates Colombian roast black. He's like, what is this filth? He's like, Colombian roast. I'm like, that's pretty good stuff, Picard. I mean, I get that you like Earl Grey, but like, you could just be like, it's not my cup of tea or whatever.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
That would have been it right there. That just
That's what he should. That I'm kind of ashamed I didn't think of that sooner, but it just kind of came out.
Oh, I got to write it down. It was so good. Not my cup of tea. That would have been just classic right there.
Yeah.
How did they not get that?
If they go, oh, I'm sorry, don't you like it? He goes, it's not my cup of tea. Right? That's the line, you guys.
That's the line right there. You just nailed it on the head. Yeah, for him, he was like, "This
call
must
me,
be
Star Trek Picard. Call me. More gems coming."
Yeah, that was it right there.
I do want to.
So yeah, it was a good episode.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out. We only have a few minutes left here, but I did want to point out quickly that there were 5 NAMs. NAMs are non-appearance mentions. Everybody, that's times where they mention a character that's not actually on the show. So the character doesn't actually get a credit for it, but we think they should be credited for being at least mentioned because it increases the character's storyline or story arc. One was Laris and her husband Shaban. We find out that they died in this alternate timeline. That's the 2 of them.
Right.
Spot, I'm counting Spot, even though it's Spot 73, whatever, close enough. And they also mention Kirk and Spock. They talk about both of them. So that was a lot of NAMs, a lot of non-appearance mentions there.
Well, we also have to add the Sisko, Dukat, and Martok.
Exactly. And Sarek.
Yeah.
We did kind of see them. But not Sisko, that's for sure.
Not Sisko, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those were amazing. Also, what was it? There was something else that I really wanted to touch on, but I can't find it right now. Oh, the ship that they mentioned in this new timeline in the CSS World Racer, and that had to be in reference to Picard's, the ship that they were on, which was the USS Stargazer. Instead of Stargazer, it's a World Racer. So that's, obviously just shows that they're now conquerors rather than explorers or people that are gazing out into the vastness of space.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but also I wanted to give a nice shout out to the wardrobe guys who designed Picard's black outfits.
Yeah,
he had one jacket on with like a leather on the shoulders. I thought that jacket is one that I would definitely wear
sharp
all day, every day. It looked like a nice one. His general outfit or his leader outfit, whatever he was, I'm not sure his position, but his general outfit with the all black with the kind of stitching, the riveting on it that comes across, awesome as well.
Amazing.
I thought it looked amazing. And lastly, I will say that I was a little bit off put by, I didn't like the new symbol that they came up with for this confederation.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
Yeah, they did have a new logo or symbol, which I guess was an amalgamation of all of these other symbols. It looked like it was so it was
like a big mess of all these things.
Federation, yeah. It looked like a big mess of all of those things. So that's another thing to kind of pay attention to. Even though Picard was wearing that oversized Star Trek Delta, I don't know if you noticed how big they were, but they seem
they're gigantic. They're like real shields. Like if you get attacked, you could pull it off and like protect yourself.
Yeah, I was like, those are really big. So you noticed that too. Okay, so it's not my imagination.
Definitely. And in case of an emergency, it can be used as a flotation device. Yeah. No, I definitely know. Those things are enormous. They're belt buckles.
They're like belt buckle size. And I'm like, wow, they're getting bigger and bigger.
Coasters.
So yeah, definitely. And also really quickly, love Rafi's hair. I thought it was fantastic.
Always love her hair, whether it's out here or whether it's down there. It's natural. It's beautiful. It's fun. It looks great. Yeah,
she looks stunning to me. So I loved her in that too.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what that means is it's time for us to, let's see, give some very special thanks to a few people. And their names
Carmen Shamwell, aka Skillet.
You know where we're going with this. Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
Carmen, aka Skillet, TJ Jackson-Bey, fresh from the cruise out in Missouri. Bill Victor Arucan. Yvette Blackmon, also from the cruise, now in New Yeezy. We've got Homer Freezy out in New Yeezy as well. Eve England out in Wales. Dr. Marie Segal in Manhattan. We have Grandpa One, the aforementioned Tim Baum. Titus Mohler. We've got Darlena Marie, our good friend John Mann.
Darlena Marie.
That is a good song. That sounds like the Temptations or something. We've got Dr. Mohamed Noor, also from the cruise, all the way to you via North Carolina. Joe Balsarati, Tierney C. Dieckmann. We've got Michelle Melendez, Marcia Classic Schreier, Anna Post, Jenna Appleton, Dr. Frank Sobozhensky, and of course,
Dr. Frank Sobozhensky.
Dr. Susan V. Gruner. I think that's about it for us. Hang on one second. We've got a couple more thank yous to give. Let me pull them up right now.
All right.
I know. Can you believe it? Our family keeps growing. We also want to give a very special thanks to Ryan, great name, Galloway, Christopher Collins, Erica Strom, looks German, maybe Strom, and Amy Renee Haynes. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Christopher Collins.
Mm-hmm. This was a great one. Really looking forward to more episodes of Picard. Lots of really cool stuff that happened in this one. Did you have a favorite line?
I did have a favorite line. I like Q's line when he says, "We're never too old to be students of our own behavior."
Oh. Great. Yep. Jake Sisko's line of the day. All right. Well, everybody at home, thank you very much for joining us. Keep watching Picard. It's just getting better. Can't wait for it. Thank you all very much. And until next time, always remember the seventh rule.